Hello everyone, thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. I am back again with another video, and today we are going to be doing a Mystery Monday video. If you guys hear any noises, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that I live in an apartment complex and it's always noisy and my dog is always doing random stuff, so I apologize. And yeah, so if you guys are new, welcome. My name is Gladys. I do Mystery Monday videos. I also do Bookish Thursday videos where I talk about books on Thursdays, and I am planning on doing some lifestyle videos that I will most likely be posting on Sundays. If you guys like these type of videos, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below letting me know what else you guys would like to see. Let me just tell you guys a little something before I get down to this video. I recorded this video twice already. The first time it was deleted from my phone. The second time the camera cut me off. So here I am again. That's why I didn't post a Monday mystery video last week. Let's get to it. Today we will be talking about a case that came to my attention when I saw it on Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. It was season 1, episode 1, and that is the Death of Rey Rivera. So Rey Omar Rivera was born on June 10th, 1973 to Angel and Maria Rivera. He came from a Latin family and he was very, very close to his family. A couple years after high school, he married his girlfriend Allison, and they lived in California until Rey's best friend offered him a job in Baltimore. Rey and Allison ended up moving to Baltimore, and they left California and their families behind. Now, the friend that offered him the job was Porter Stansbury. He had his own company called Stansbury's and Associates, where they did a couple of different things. Rey worked as a writer and videographer for him, and he was there for a couple of years, but 6 months before his death, he did end up leaving that company and ended up working at a company named Oxford Club as a finance writer. Writing was literally what he loved to do. Everyone had stated that about Rey. They talked about the fact that he wrote so many different things, and his main goal was to become a scriptwriter. Unfortunately, that did not come true because at 32 years old, Rey Rivera did pass away. On May 16th, 2006, Rey was working from home. His wife, Allison, she wasn't home at the moment, but they did have a friend staying there just for a couple of days. It was her last day there. She was about to board her flight and leave that night. But that was the last day that anyone actually saw Rey alive. This day, we do know that Allison, Rey's friend, she heard that Rey got a phone call. Rey answered the phone call and he took off in a hurry, and he didn't let anyone know where he was going. Before we move forward, let's talk a little bit about this call because it's one of the most important parts of the whole investigation, and it's frustrating because there's really not much they know about it. So we do know that Rey was no longer working for Stansbury's company, but he got a call from the Agora Publishing Company. Agora Publishing was a really big corporation, and they handled a couple of different companies, and Stansbury's company was one of the companies that they handled. Rey used to work for Stansbury's and Associates, but at the time of his death, he no longer worked for them. But the call was traced back to Agora, who handled Stansbury's and Associates. Agora's publishing used what is known as a switchboard. A switchboard connects different parts of a telephone system to establish a call. So pretty much if any of the companies contact someone, it's always going to show up as Agora Publishing. It might not show up as the company itself. So they didn't know who had reached out to Rey. They traced back the call to Agora Publishing, but they couldn't really figure out who made the call or what telephone it came from. They never really knew if it was Porter's company that made the call. So like we said, Rey got the call, he left, nobody knew where he had gone, and he actually never came back. Rey's wife, Allison, went out looking for him with all of his family, and they could not find him. They ended up going to the police department, where eventually they reported him as a missing person. They spent the next couple of days looking for him until a couple of days later, Allison's parents end up finding Rey's car parked in a parking structure close by where he worked. They did know that the car was there for a couple of nights because he had a couple of parking tickets on his dashboard. They pretty much realized that the car had been there since the day that he had left his home. At that point, they didn't really know what else to do. They found his car in that area, so their decision was to start looking around the area to see if maybe they could find some clue or if someone saw him in that area. So everyone is looking for him, including his coworkers. And at one point, his coworkers end up going to a pretty large parking garage. They go to the top of the parking garage just to look out to make sure, you know, do we see him? Do we see anything weird? And they did. This is when they realized that they saw a hole on one of the rooftops from the Belvedere Hotel. The Belvedere Hotel is a historic hotel in the Baltimore area. The hole that was found in one of the south part of the buildings, and they pretty much let the cops know and investigators know that they had found the hotel, but they didn't know if it had any importance to Rey's case. At this point, they had nothing to lose. Of course, the investigators go and take a look at the hole and see if they find anything in that room. And on May 24th, 2006, Baltimore investigators find the partial decomposed body of Rey Rivera in the conference room of the Belvedere Hotel. When the detectives got to the area and they started to kind of search around, look at the rooftop where the hole was made and all of the surroundings, they immediately thought that Rey had committed suicide and pretty much jumped off a rooftop. However, there were a couple of different things that stood out to detectives of why it could possibly not have been a suicide. The main part of it was the fact that Rey was wearing sandals. These sandals were not on his feet, of course, but they were right outside of where the hole was made. His sandals were in pretty good condition, except the fact that one of the straps was ripped off. Other than that, they were not in a bad condition. So it didn't really match the fact that somebody ran off the rooftop and jumped off and made a hole. You would think that the sandals would have flew off of him. He would have taken them off, not just right next to the hole. The other part of it was that his cell phone and his sunglasses were right next to the hole as well. They were in perfect condition. They were not scratched. They were not broken. They pretty much just looked like they were taken out of his pocket and placed right next to the hole. And those were the main things that stood out to detectives as they were pretty much looking at the area surrounding Rey's death. I am not going to get into the whole mathematics of the distance of the jumping in the hole because it was confusing. In the show was confusing. When I was investigating, it was confusing. I am not a math person, but let's talk about one of the things. Detectives realized that he could have only jumped from one specific area because he didn't have the authority to enter through any other area of the hotel to any of the rooftops. Because this is a pretty big hotel. It has different parts of rooftops. It has different levels. So they were like, okay, he can only jump from this one specific area where anybody can pretty much enter through and go to the rooftop. They realized that if he had jumped from that specific area and landed in the hole where the hole was made, he would have been traveling at a speed of 11 miles per hour. This would have made it complicated because of the fact that he was wearing sandals. And they thought that if he was going to jump off, he would have most likely taken off his sandals. So like I said, investigators were pretty sure that he wasn't going to be able to jump from any other area because most of the other areas were blocked. And on the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries show, they talk about the fact that he would have been able to jump from another area if he would have had access to it. There was this part of the hotel where they had windows that opened, and right outside the windows there was a ledge. He could have jumped from there if he had access to any of those rooms that connected to the windows and the ledge. Now, most of those rooms that had those windows were offices or condos, and they were locked. You had to have access to them, which he didn't have. There wasn't any sort of report that there was a break-in, so they didn't really know how he would have been able to access those windows. However, when I was looking into this investigation, I did come across a person named Makita Brotman, and she wrote a book called The Unexplained Death: The True Story of a Body at Belvedere. She used to live in the Belvedere hotels, and she ended up saying that she told Netflix producers that there was another area of the hotel that Rey could have access to been able to get to another part of the rooftop that could have been close to where the hole was made. She did state that they never reported that in the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries, and I couldn't really figure out if that was ever investigated or if they ever looked into it, because I do feel like if you think he could have jumped from another area and that could have proven that he jumped, you should be looking into that. But like I said, I could not find any sort of article. They pretty much state that that was investigated. She did state that there was another area of the hotel that could have led to a different part of another rooftops. And in this book, she talks a lot about this case, and she does state that she does believe that he committed suicide. The other part that was weird to Ray's wife and his family was the fact that Ray always carried a money clip that was given to him by his wife Allison. However, that money clip was not found. He didn't leave it in the car, in his home, it wasn't in his pocket. His brother emphasized that this money clip was really, really important to him because it was given to him by his wife, and that he would have never taken it off, he would have never lost it. So the fact that it was never found was really, really weird. Investigators also went around the hotel room asking people if they had seen Ray or if they saw anything that was weird. Everyone around there stated that they had not seen him, that he didn't look familiar, and I don't know what it is about these cases and like missing people or anything where there's supposed to be cameras. Why is it that the cameras are never working, or like something's always going on? In the Belvedere Hotel, of course, they had cameras, they were a hotel, but the management team at the Belvedere Hotel stated that their cameras were not working, that they had some sort of malfunction to their equipment, so they could not prove or they could not see if Ray was ever in the hotel. Why is it that cameras are never working? I don't understand that part. But in this case, same thing, cameras were not working. After they looked around the area and they really didn't find much, they decided to go back to I'm so sorry if you guys hear that beep. They decided to go back to Allison and Ray's home just to see if they find anything out of the ordinary there. When detectives get to the house, they realize that it is true. Ray loves to write. It is something that he did constantly because they found notes all over. But the weirdest note that they found was typed out on the day that he went missing. And the reason why they know that it was typed out that day was because I'm going to go ahead and post a picture of it, but it was a pretty large letter. Like, he literally minimized it as much as he could. He cut out the extra document part, like the white part, and threw that in the garbage can. And that's how Allison knew that he had wrote it the day he went missing, because she had stated that that was not in there before. That paper was folded into small squares and it was taped behind the desk of his computer. This note was completely crazy. I mean, it was really long, like I said, and it was kind of all over the place. And I am not gonna go over everything on the note because trust me, we could literally be here all day. When I was looking into the note, I mean, I was blown away by so much of the stuff that was in there. But let's talk a little bit about the note. The note referenced Freemasons a lot. And if you guys are not familiar with Freemasons, because I wasn't, I knew that it existed. I just didn't really know what it was. But Freemasonry is pretty much the teachings and practice of a secret fraternal, men-only order of free and accepted Masons. It is known as the world's largest secret society. So pretty much when I was looking into it, I pretty much got that it was a white, rich, men-only club. It's very private. You have to get accepted to it. You have to be someone of some sort of status. I did see that 14 of our first 43 presidents were part of the Freemasons, and they talk a lot about conspiracies and government and all that stuff. I do know that they do accept people of color, but they're a little bit more picky about that. It really only is white men. I mean, I will definitely look into it because trust me, there's a lot of things about Freemasons. I looked into it and I just kept going over into different websites and reading different things. And at one point I was like, I hope they don't think I'm trying to join. I mean, not that they would accept me, but I'm just like, it's a lot, trust me. Going back to the note, in the beginning of the note, it does start off with a couple of different things, which I'm going to go ahead and read. It does say, Brothers and sisters, right now, around the world, volcanoes are erupting. What an awesome sight. Whom virtue unites, death will not separate. Now, that last part, whom virtue unites, death will not separate, is known to be a Masonic phrase, which means that it does belong to the Freemasons. It is something that has been in their work. Throughout the note, he references Freemasons a lot. He references a lot of movies that have to do with conspiracies. So throughout researching Rey himself, I did see that he was very fascinated and intrigued by conspiracies. In the note, he also notes a couple of different family members and friends, and he states that he wishes they were 5 years younger. He also goes to list a couple of different celebrities that have passed on. And like I said, he references a lot of movies that have to do with conspiracy. Now, the note was sent over to the FBI department where they analyzed the note to see if there was any sort of suicidal thoughts in there. The FBI concluded, well, no, there was no suicide behavior in the note. It did show someone that struggled mentally, and they concluded that there were two different things that this person could have struggled with. One of them being delusion, and the second one being bipolar disorder. So like I said, in the note, he referenced a lot of different movies. One of them we're going to talk about a little bit because I did find this conversation on Reddit where one of the users states that Rey's death is very similar to one of the movies that was on his note. The whole purpose of the movie is that you have to lose everything in order to appreciate what you have in life. So it becomes sort of a game to the characters that are in the movie. The Reddit user stated that Rey might have thought of his life as a game. Since he was an unsuccessful writer, he wanted to be a scriptwriter and he was never able to accomplish that goal. So that could have been a reason to why he thought that his life had to end and that he might have been able to start all over. However, Unsolved Mysteries co-creator Terry Dunn stated that although he could see the connection there, that it's just not connected because of the fact that he referenced so many movies, and some movies he referenced more than once in all his writing, but this movie, The Game, he only referenced once. So they just felt like there would have been more connections to it if that was the case. So that was just what I found there. I thought that was interesting because I could see it as a possibility. I just wanted to put that out there since it was not on the show. Let's talk a little bit about his friend Porter Stansbury. Now, in the beginning of the video, I talked about the fact that Porter offered Rey a job and told him to pretty much move to Baltimore. Porter and Rey were friends for so many years. When I looked into their friendship, I found so many pictures of them together. They met when they were really young. They went to high school together. They both played water polo. And there's pictures of them like at prom. They were at each other's weddings. They were very, very close. Their families knew each other very well. Then Rey, like I said, had stopped working for Porter 6 months before his death. Porter states that Rey left on good terms, that he didn't really have any problems with the company, that he just stated that he wanted to do something else, and he was just kind of doing his own thing at that point. However, Allison, who was Rey's wife, stated that Rey was very upset at Porter because at this time, Porter was being investigated for fraudulent activity. A couple of weeks before his death, Porter's company ended up getting sued for selling fraudulent tips to investors. In the end, he was fined $1.5 million. A lot of people question Porter because he's known to do some really, really shady stuff. Homicide detective Michael Meyer and Allison, who was Rey's wife, stated that after they found Rey's body, Porter completely stopped communicating with them. He would no longer answer their calls and he would no longer communicate in any sort of way. They also stated that Porter had told his employees to not speak to detectives and not speak to media. Now, if you watch the Netflix show Unsolved Mysteries, you would know that Porter did not actually comment on anything during the show. It did state on there that they reached out to Porter, but that he declined to talk to them. But after the show came out, Porter spoke to the Baltimore Sun, and he pretty much stated that he was completely heartbroken about the fact that they painted him to be the killer. He also stated that his family and him have been getting harassed and are constantly getting calls letting them know that he's pretty much gonna die for what he did to Rey. Porter stated that he did not stop communicating with Allison, that he actually hired his own private investigator when Rey went missing, and that he put out his own reward for tips of Rey's disappearance. Now, He did state that once they found his body, he realized that it was a suicide, and that he didn't tell his employees to stop talking to detectives, that he told them that they can talk to any detective, but to not talk to the media, that if the media at any point questioned them, they should go to their company's spokesperson. That makes sense to me. I can see why he would tell his employees to lead media over to the spokesperson. They're a large corporation, they have a spokesperson for a reason. And Porter did state that Rey was very intrigued in conspiracies, and he was super into Freemasonry, which we kind of realized that. He also stated that at one point Rey asked Porter if he was part of the leadership from Freemasons. Porter kind of laughed it off. He didn't really know what Rey meant, because Porter states that he's not into Freemasons. He doesn't really know much about it. So he just kind of laughed and let it go. And then he also stated that Allison at one point talked to him about Rey's mental health and that she was very afraid for him. But Allison declines this conversation, and she states that she never actually spoke to Porter about anything with Rey's mental health because she wasn't even concerned about his mental health. She never once questioned his mental health, and she didn't really think there was anything wrong with Rey. Now, there's this part of Porter's interview that stood out to me, and I'm gonna read it to you guys because I want to know what you guys think about it. Okay, so when he spoke to the Baltimore Sun, he told them, "Once the body was found, we were all sad and shocked by the fact that Rey killed himself. But once we saw all the facts and his financial pressures, it wasn't much of a mystery." I just thought that the fact that he stated that Rey killed himself was very harsh. I don't know what you guys think. I just feel like his verbiage to what Rey did was very harsh. And I almost feel like if that's your best friend and his wife thinks that it was not suicide, wouldn't you try to help her to prove that it either was or wasn't? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, because I thought he was pretty harsh. I know he's a very shady person, but is he capable of killing his best friend? I don't know. Now, one of the things that comes up over and over again is the fact that Rey was stressed out. His wife Allison states that he really wasn't stressed out, that one, he wasn't working as much, but that was really his choice, and that he wasn't really where he wanted to be in life. His family state that he could have been stressed out, but that Rey would have never committed suicide because their family was very close, and they just felt like Rey would have told them that he needed help. It was also a thing that happened a couple of days before he died, and twice their house alarm went off, and that really freaked Rey out. Allison stated that after that he acted very weird, almost as if somebody was going after him and he knew it. She did state that she asked him what was wrong, and he never actually told her what was happening. And I don't know, that just really makes me sad, because if he knew there was someone going after him, or if he knew someone was wrong and he couldn't tell his wife, like that just really breaks my heart, because I feel like he was afraid and almost felt alone. That's really all we know, other than the fact that on the day he disappeared, he did speak to someone from Freemasons, letting him know that he wanted to join. He also did go to his local bookstore and bought a book called Freemasons for Dummies. But other than that, we don't know anything else about Rey's disappearance. We don't know who reached out to him that day, or if he did commit suicide, or if someone did take his life. There are a lot of different theories that surround this death. The top 3 theories that we're going to talk about are probably the ones that stand out to me the most. The first one being that he committed suicide. A lot of people think he committed suicide. A lot of people think he struggled mentally and he just did not talk about it. I do want to point out, as someone that comes from a Latin family, we do not speak about mental illnesses enough. I just feel like growing up, I wasn't even aware of what a mental illness was. So I do feel like the possibility of him struggling mentally is there. Do we know 100%? No, Rey passed away. We don't know, but it is a possibility. There are a couple of different things that stand out. I mean, his belongings just being right next to the hole, but I just feel like it wasn't investigated the way it should have been. They didn't look at all the possibilities. The second theory is that someone killed him, and a lot of people are pointing the finger at Porter Stansbury because, like I said, he is shady. He was doing illegal stuff, and a lot of people believe that Rey knew a lot of the things that he was doing, and that he possibly threatened Porter and maybe some of the people that he worked with killed him, because Rey could have taken all of them down. I don't know, because there's not a lot of evidence to go with that either. There are a couple of different weird things. Like I said, Porter himself is very odd, but I don't know. And the third one is that he could have been robbed and they could have possibly just killed him and then made it seem like a suicide. Not a lot to go with this theory other than the fact that his money clip was missing. And again, a lot of people think it wasn't suicide. So I don't know, you guys, let me know. Like I said, I've always been super intrigued by this case. There's a lot of information that I could not add in here. There's a lot of people that spoke up because of the fact that, like I said, this video would have been 5 days long. Not really, but it would have been long. I just want to know what you guys think. Let me know, comment down below, and let me know if you guys want to watch any other cases. Again, I feel really, really bad for Allison and Rey's family, and I hope that they find the answers that they're looking for. And if Porter Stansbury had nothing to do with this, the same thing for him, because obviously he has been harassed by a lot of people. But let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Take care, and I'll see you next time.